When he had to go on his hiatus, he tell me, Cat, when I come back, I need you. You my young partner, you my brother in comedy. When I promise you know we get in that office and this movie will be me and you. Big Mama's house too. I almost died.
A lot of my friends ask me, they say, Dave, did you know anything about those freak off parties? And I'd be like, nah, man. I don't know anything about freak off.
He lost $50 million. No, that's not even close to what happened to this dude. And until you understand what happened to the dude, you don't understand what happens. Like, no, not they offered him $50 million and he turned it down. Who gonna turn down $50 million? Because P. Diddy be wanting to buy it. And you gotta tell it.
Martin Lawrence and Dave Chappelle are finally throwing some subtle shade at Diddy during their stand-up routines, but fans are now questioning just how much these two comedy legends really knew all along. Dave, who famously roasted Diddy on Chappelle's show back in the day, went quiet for years until he suddenly turned down a $50 million deal and fled to Africa, later hinting that Hollywood had become too dark for him. But oddly enough, he was seen having dinner with Diddy, just months before Cassie's explosive lawsuit in 2023, and the timing raised eyebrows. As for Martin, he's been making light jokes about baby oil and Diddy's bizarre habits, but he's careful not to go too deep, even though fans remember when he once ran into traffic in the 90s yelling, "They're trying to kill me." That breakdown, followed by his sudden shift into safer comedy, has long sparked rumors. Add to that Cat Williams' allegations that Martin tried to pressure him into wearing a dress and maybe playing gatekeeper for Hollywood, and now fans are wondering, were Dave and Martin just staying quiet to protect themselves, or were they deeper in the know than they let on? Because let's be honest, baby oil jokes are funny, but they don't explain why some of Hollywood's biggest names kept silent for so long while chaos played out behind the scenes. If you scroll through social media lately, especially in threads about Martin Lawrence, the tone among longtime fans feels different. There's not just disappointment, there's real concern. Many are openly saying that the Martin they grew up admiring seems like a shell of his former self, and some believe he's surrendered to the very Hollywood system he once pushed back against. Back in the day, Martin wasn't afraid to speak out. He'd throw punches at the industry, shine a light on racial hypocrisy, and call things what they were, raw and unfiltered. But these days, his jokes come with a noticeable hesitation. On stage now, it's like he's walking on eggshells. "You can't say this, you can't say that," he jokes, but there's truth behind the laugh. You can feel him trying to wrestle with the fact that comedy used to be his tool to reflect the world. Now it feels like the world has silenced that tool. And this new version of Martin, it's not just age or maturity. There's something deeper going on, a shift that fans can feel, even if they can't quite name it. One person wrote, "People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. This man gave in to everything Hollywood put in front of him. You know it, I know it. That's why he's broken." Another added, "As a longtime fan, this was hard to watch. I came in smiling, ready to laugh, but he's just not funny anymore. Hasn't been since the early 2000s. So what changed?" Some chalk it up to time. Others point to a more defining moment. That day in May 1996, when Martin had a public meltdown in LA, running into traffic with a gun and yelling, "They're trying to kill me." The media ran wild with it. Headlines painted him as a drug addict spiraling out of control. Soon came claims of a bipolar diagnosis. But Martin later insisted those narratives were exaggerated, twisted to sell a spectacle. "You don't know what it's like until you've been through it," he said, hinting that what happened wasn't as simple as the press made it seem. Interestingly, Dave Chappelle, who's had his own battles with Hollywood, brought up Martin's name during his legendary 2006 interview with Oprah. He talked about the cost of fame and the eerie pattern of celebrities who seem to break down right after hitting the peak. He used Martin as an example, suggesting these weren't just personal struggles. They were symptoms of a deeper sickness in the industry itself. And maybe, just maybe, Martin didn't lose his edge. Maybe it was taken from him. Now fans are starting to ask, did Martin Lawrence take a big Hollywood deal to protect his career, or was he genuinely scared into playing it safe? Because if you compare his bold, outspoken energy in the 90s to his recent interviews, it's like watching two different people. On The Breakfast Club, when asked about long-running Illuminati rumors and the whole men in dresses thing that comedians like Cat Williams have been calling out for years, Martin completely dismissed it. He said dressing up for roles like Big Mama or Shanae was just comedy, even claiming those characters were meant to represent strong black women. But a lot of people weren't buying that, especially since those portrayals leaned into offensive stereotypes more than empowerment. What's wild is that Martin's story doesn't feel like an isolated case. Fans are noticing a pattern. Whenever a celeb gets too close to exposing how Hollywood really works, they either fall mysteriously ill, get labeled crazy, or suddenly go silent. Think Dave Chappelle, Kanye, Jamie Foxx. Speaking of Dave, his story is even more confusing now. He once walked away from a $50 million deal, vanished to Africa, and said the industry was too dark. But lately, fans are side-eyeing him because he's been taking subtle shots at Cat Williams, even though Cat has never said a bad word about Dave. In fact, during his viral Club Shay Shay interview, Cat praised Dave and said he respected him deeply. When Shannon Sharpe brought up Dave turning down that big deal, Cat didn't criticize. He just shared that he too had to walk away from big money offers that came with strings attached, including weird Diddy party invites. He even joked, "You gotta tell him no. I got the receipts." Still, Dave fired back in his stand-up, claiming Cat targets other black comedians and projects his own issues. But fans aren't buying it, because all Cat's ever done is say the quiet part out loud, and more often than not, he's been proven right. Dave Chappelle may still be one of the sharpest minds in comedy, but fans are starting to feel like he's playing it safe, especially after his shady remarks about Cat Williams. In a recent stand-up, Dave accused Cat of dragging other black comedians instead of calling out white ones, saying, "He didn't say anything about any of these white boys, but he came after all his black peers." Dave even implied that Cat was hurting people out of his own pain. That hit a nerve with fans, especially because in his viral Club Shay Shay interview, Cat made it clear, this isn't about race, it's about good versus evil. He said plainly, it's not about black versus white. It's God's side versus the other side. And in 2024, all these big deviants are getting exposed. And he's been consistent. He never accused Dave of anything, only spoke truth. To power about his own experiences. So when Dave threw those shots, fans weren't having it. They reminded everyone that Cat had always shown respect to Dave, and instead of returning the favor, Dave deflected and minimized Cat's message. Then there's the Diddy angle, and this is where things get even messier. During his SNL monologue back in January, Dave finally broke his silence on the Diddy drama. He claimed he never got invited to the infamous freak-off parties, joking, "They didn't call me. I must be ugly." He even cracked a wild joke about seeing Puff in a back room with Carl Winslow from Family Matters, all in classic Chappelle fashion. But underneath the humor, fans were left wondering, was Dave telling the truth or just playing dumb to protect himself? Because here's the thing, shortly before Cassie filed her lawsuit against Diddy, Dave was seen out having dinner with him. So which is it? Did he really not know anything? Or is he just trying to keep his hands clean now that the tide is turning? At this point, it feels like Dave is dodging the real questions, aiming at easier targets like Cat, while carefully tiptoeing around the real power players like Diddy. And for a guy who built his legacy on speaking uncomfortable truths, that's what fans are finding hard to ignore. There's a question that's been echoing louder with each passing day. Why has Dave Chappelle stayed so quiet about the deeper layers of the Diddy controversy? Sure, he's tossed a few jokes Diddy's way, but he's stopped short of asking the real questions. Questions like, how did Diddy manage to operate in plain sight for so long? Who shielded him? What kind of power structure allowed this to continue unchecked? Because at this point, it's not just about one man throwing bizarre parties. It's about a whole system that seems built to protect him, and Dave's refusal to address that has people unsettled. But what really raised eyebrows was a moment back in April 2022, just before Diddy received his Lifetime Achievement Award from BET. The Daily Mail reported that he and Dave Chappelle were spotted dining together, laughing and seemingly enjoying each other's company. They even left in the same car. That dinner happened just months before Cassie's explosive lawsuit, and fans couldn't help but wonder, what was Dave doing there? This is the same Dave who, years earlier, relentlessly mocked Diddy on Chappelle's show. So how did he go from clowning Diddy to clinking glasses with him? Then came an even stranger twist. Jaguar Wright, known for pulling back the curtain on the entertainment world, claimed that when Dave walked away from his $50 million Comedy Central deal and fled to Africa, industry handlers didn't let him go easily. She suggests they tracked him down, and that Dave hasn't truly been himself since. It's a chilling thought, especially when you consider how often his behavior has sparked speculation in recent years. And it didn't stop there. In a barely noticed moment during a Big Boy interview, Kanye West dropped another bombshell. He claimed that once he began criticizing the control structures of the music industry, particularly the powerful figures behind exploitative contracts, those same industry forces retaliated. According to Kanye, they sent in familiar faces to rein him in: Diddy, Meek Mill, and Dave Chappelle. He painted a picture of celebrity puppeteering, where powerful black entertainers are deployed to keep others in line. The goal? Get them to behave, to say the right things, wear the approved t-shirts, and play the celebrity game the way LeBron or Drake might. And Dave, Kanye says, was part of that. All of this has left fans in a whirlwind of confusion and reflection. How did two of comedy's most fearless, thought-provoking voices, Dave Chappelle and Martin Lawrence, seemingly go from being cultural truth-tellers to appearing, at least in the eyes of some, as silent spectators in a world they once challenged? These were the comedians who didn't just make people laugh. They made people think. They exposed hypocrisies, called out corruption, and pushed back against the machinery of Hollywood with a confidence and clarity that earned them not just laughs but respect. So now, as both men appear more at ease rubbing shoulders with the same elites they once mocked or criticized, fans can't help but wonder, what changed? Dave Chappelle, in particular, was once heralded as a revolutionary voice, the man who walked away from a $50 million contract because he refused to let a system commodify his art. His exit from Chappelle's show was a cultural moment that spoke to integrity, mental clarity, and rebellion against a world eager to capitalize on black pain. Likewise, Martin Lawrence, though more known for his slapstick and situational humor, was a fearless performer in his prime. His early stand-up routines tackled race, class, relationships, and identity in ways that felt sharp, brave, and unapologetically real. But today, it seems different. Instead of challenging the system, both comedians are seen by some fans as moving more comfortably within it, hosting elite events, doing corporate-friendly comedy specials, or offering chuckles in places where once they might have offered criticism. There's a sense that the fire has dimmed, that the raw, unfiltered honesty that made them legends has softened into carefully curated performances that play it safe. Of course, not all fans are ready to condemn them. Some believe Chappelle and Lawrence are simply navigating a complicated industry where speaking out too loudly can cost you everything, from sponsorships to safety. It's not hard to imagine them choosing silence not out of betrayal, but out of necessity. With families to protect, careers to maintain, and a hostile media landscape, maybe laying low is the price of longevity. But others aren't buying it. There's a growing sentiment that these men didn't just step back, they crossed over. That somewhere along the way, a choice was made: comfort over conflict, acceptance over agitation, money over message. And the disappointment from fans isn't just about them being quiet. It's about feeling like the people they once looked to for clarity and courage are now just comfortable, settled, safe. So the big question looms heavy in the air, and it's yours to answer. Did Dave and Martin simply grow wiser with age and choose a quieter form of resistance? Or did they switch sides without telling us, blending in with the very culture they used to critique? Drop your thoughts below, because one thing's certain: the next chapter will say even more about what these legends really stand for. And fans, they're still watching.